We are only days away from the FIFA 2022 World Cup, which will be held in Qatar, and for this special occasion I'm gonna give out my predictions of how I think the tournament will go. This is just my opinion, so if you don't agree with me, you can always let me know in the comments below. Starting off with Group A, we got the opening match between host Qatar and Ecuador. Qatar are making their World Cup debut as reigning Asian champions, but their form since then has dipped based on the recent results. In the last friendlies, Qatar has lost 3-0 to an under-23 Croatian squad, 2-0 to Canada, got a respectable 2-2 draw with Chile, and managed to beat the Central American countries of Nicaragua, Guatemala and Honduras. Their main striker Almoez Ali has been banging in goals for a long time now, and it's the main hope of this national team. On the other hand, Ecuador was the hot sensation of CONMEBOL qualifiers, with an electric start to their campaign which included a draw against both Brazil and Argentina, a 2-0 win over Chile on the road, a 3-2 win over Bolivia in La Paz, and a 6-1 demolition of Colombia. Ecuador is also unbeaten in their last 5 friendlies, but they've only scored 2 goals, those being in their 1-0 wins over Nigeria and Cape Verde, along with 0-0 draws against Mexico, Saudi Arabia and Japan. In fact, goal scoring is the main issue of this Ecuador team. Piero Hincapié and Pervis Estupiñán are staples of their back line. Carlos Grueso and Moises Caicedo dominate the midfield, and they have electric wingers like Gonzalo Plata and Ángel Mena. However, their finishing is lackluster, and Ener Valencia is still their only main striker choice. There is also the fact that the host nation has never lost the opening match, and I expect that to remain the case with a young Ecuador side stepping into the big stage. Felix Torres will score the first goal at the 11th minute, and Qatar will equalize in the 67th minute through a penalty from Hassan Al-Haidos. Next up is Senegal versus the Netherlands. Senegal, as reigning African champions, have the most talent out of any team in Africa, and are to many people the continent's best chance. Meanwhile, the Netherlands and their Louis van Gaal have been the most consistent side in Europe, topping their Nations League group undefeated. Senegal's latest results see them beating Benin and just scraping through Rwanda in AFCON qualifiers, as well as beating Bolivia and drawing with Iran in recent friendlies. Senegal is definitely great on paper, but it seems to me that they haven't faced someone with the quality that the Netherlands has. In my prediction, I have Boulaye Dia to score the opening at the 3rd minute, but the Netherlands bounced back with a Depay penalty at the 20th minute, followed by a second Depay goal before the end of first half, before Bergwijn finishes off the job. I do expect Senegal to bounce back against Qatar, beating them 2-0 with a Sadio Mane brace. Ecuador might have had a rocky start after drawing with Qatar, but as we saw in the qualifiers, this team is different against big teams, and I expect them to hold the Netherlands to a 0-0 draw. In this scenario, with only 1 game to go, the Netherlands hold first place with 4 points. Senegal is in second with 3, Ecuador trailing back with 2, and Qatar with a slight chance still on 1 point. In the last match day, the Netherlands will eliminate Qatar by beating them 2-0 with a goal from Virgil van Dijk and another by Depay. And for the match that will decide the runner-up of the group, I think the experience factor will play a big role, and Senegal will sneak out a draw to escape the group stage. For Group B, we got England versus Iran. Everyone is aware of England's disappointing performance in the last Nation League, relegated in a group with Italy, Germany and Hungary. Their squad is still exciting, but some things don't seem to click, and fans are getting worried about how they'll do in Qatar. Iran, on the other hand, is in an upwards trend after getting back Carlos Queiroz as their coach. The partnership of Taremi and Azmoun up front is terrifying. However, Azmoun is injured and in doubt for the tournament. Even then, Iran is a very well organized side and has put up great fights against multiple world-class teams in recent years. I think that will still be the case, but they won't be able to completely break down England, who will pick up a 1-0 win with a Raheem Sterling goal. Then for the USA against Wales. The US are making their World Cup return after the Trinidad incident as CONCACAF champions, and with a very young squad with talent all over Europe. But their last results have left a lot to be desired, as they've lost 2-0 to Japan without a single shot on target, and only slightly improving their performance with a 0-0 draw against Saudi Arabia. Greg Berhalter has been under a lot of pressure for sticking to his system and choosing his favorite players to start. On the other hand, Wales is also returning to the World Cup after 64 years with a golden generation led by Gareth Bale. They did relegate in the Nations League, but it was a very tough group where they still put up respectable fights in every game. This World Cup group looks a lot more doable for Wales, and I'm gonna go for them to win 1-0 with a Brennan Johnson goal. I expect the US to dominate possession, but struggle to break down a low block Welsh team that gets them in a counter. I do expect Wales to struggle a lot more against Iran. Despite going 1-0 up thanks to Gareth Bale, Iran will get an equalizer through Mehdi Taremi. Then there is the very awaited game between England and the United States. The US owns the head-to-head in World Cups with a 1-0 win in 1950 and a 1-1 draw in 2010. However, I expect England to get its first win against the Americans in the World Cup with a goal from Harry Kane and another by Phil Foden. Cause yes, it's called football. Heading into the last match day, England got a perfect score of 6 points. Wales is in second with 4, Iran has 1, and the US is already eliminated with 0. In a British encounter to decide who tops the group, Wales and England will draw 1-1 after Gareth Bale scores in the 36th minute before Harry Kane equalizes through a penalty in the 85th. Meanwhile, in a game with no stakes remaining, I expect the US to get their first goal through Christian Pulisic before Iran make a comeback through Mehdi Taremi and Alireza Hakanbakash. This way, England tops the group with 7 points, Wales gets out also undefeated with 5, Iran once again faces heartbreak with 4 points, while the US goes back home without a single point. We continue with Group C, where the opening game will be Argentina versus Saudi Arabia. The South American champions come into the World Cup in amazing form. Flawless qualifying campaign, 35 games undefeated in a row, and it could be 36 once the World Cup starts if we don't lose to the UAE. Not losing to Saudi Arabia would then be enough to tie Italy's record for the longest unbeaten streak any national team has ever had. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, have picked up 1 win out of their last 7 friendlies, that being a 1-0 win over North Macedonia. The other results include 1-0 losses to Colombia and Venezuela and draws against Ecuador, the USA, Albania and Honduras. Saudi Arabia does have a few things going for them. Their proximity to Qatar basically makes them the home team. All their players play in the Saudi League and know each other very well. The Saudi League is already over and all the players are already training in camp and will have 3 friendlies in November before meeting Argentina. Despite this, I simply cannot go for the upset. Argentina will win 3-0 with a brace from Lautaro Martinez and a goal from Lionel Messi. The second game is one a lot of people are looking forward to in this group, since both Mexico and Poland are the contenders to claim that second seed. Mexico has had a rough go lately, failing to beat their rivals the United States in the Nations League final, the Gold Cup final and in both qualifier games. Trying to prepare for Argentina, they played every CONMEBOL team available, picking up 3 losses, 2 draws and a single win. Tata Martino has been under a lot of pressure because of the results, the team's lack of creativity and bad finishing, only made worse because of the injuries of Raúl Jiménez and Tecatito Corona. Poland got a new coach that got them to the World Cup after beating Sweden in the playoffs. Since then, it's hard to rate Poland's results since they did collapse 6-1 to Belgium in the Nations League and only stayed up because they were able to beat Wales home and away. But they also snatched the only point away from the Netherlands on the road. I don't think Poland is a fantastic national team, but I think they have the quality and the technicality to take down Mexico. I'm gonna go for a 1-0 win to Poland, with Arkadiusz Milik scoring the winner. As for Poland against Saudi Arabia, I expect another Polish victory, 3-1 this time. Lewandowski scores first, followed by Saleh Al-Shehri equalizer, Lewandowski brace, and Zielinski with the last finishing blow. Then there is the long-awaited Argentina vs Mexico rematch. Lots of history between these two teams in Copas America and World Cups, with an overwhelming record in favor of Argentina. And I think it'll stay that way, 2-0 with a Lautaro brace. This way, going into the last match day, Argentina and Poland are already qualified to the round of 16 with 6 points, while Mexico and Saudi Arabia are eliminated with 0. With only pride on the line, I expect Mexico to beat Saudi Arabia 2-1, with a goal from Irving Lozano, another from Edson Alvarez, while Saudi Arabia trail back thanks to Fahad Al-Muhalla. And for the match that will determine first place in the group, the clash between Messi and Lewandowski, I expect Argentina to pick up a third win, 2-1 with goals from Messi, Di Maria, and Poland get their goal from Krzysztof Piatek. With that, Argentina perfect score, top of the group with 9 points, followed by Poland with 6, Mexico with 3, and Saudi Arabia empty-handed. Now, Group D. This is a group a lot of people are looking at because it includes the World Cup champions France, and we all know what happens to the defending world champions in the group stage. The first game, however, is Denmark against Tunisia. Denmark are coming into the World Cup in amazing form with world-class players in every position, a system that works and results to back up their chances. From an almost perfect run in qualifiers to making the semis of the Euros and beating France home and away in the Nations League. Tunisia, on the other hand, got to the World Cup through an own goal, but since then have been looking more and more solid with each game. Ever since they made it to the World Cup, their only loss has been to Brazil, and they've beaten tough competition like Chile and Japan quite comfortably. Even then, I expect Denmark to get the win here. Let's say 4-1, goals from Mele, Damsgaard, Tunisia get one back through Wabi Kazri, Damsgaard again, and Dolberg closes it out. Then it's France versus Australia. Now everyone has been talking about France's injuries and the lack of form in the last few international breaks, but I don't see enough people talking about this Australia team, which I have no problem in saying this is the worst Australia team we've seen in a good while. However, they've proven to be organized on the back to make up for their lack of quality and creativity. I'm still gonna give this one to France because I feel like their attack it's much better than whatever Australia had to face to get here. 2-0 for France with an Mbappe brace. For Tunisia versus Australia, I'm gonna go for a 0-0 draw. I think Tunisia will have the initiative in this game, but Australia will be able to lock the game this time. France versus Denmark is the most awaited game of this group, because France are the ones who have to prove themselves here, not Denmark. I think this time Denmark won't be able to get the win and it will be a 2-2 draw. Griezmann will score the opener, Denmark will come back through Højbjerg and Eriksen, with Benzema getting the equalizer. This way, going into the last match day, Denmark and France are tied with 4 points, Denmark with a slightly better goal difference, while Tunisia and Australia are at the bottom with 1 point. Australia versus Denmark will be a well-fought 2-0 win for the Danes, with goals from Eriksen and Braithwaite. Tunisia versus France will get scary for a bit when Youssef Mskani scores first, but France will recover and win with a Benzema brace. This way, Denmark wins the group on goal difference with 7 points, while France also gets 7 and avoid the champions' curse, with Tunisia and Australia down with 1 point each. Next up is Group E, that will start with Germany and Japan. Now, Germany have had a bumpy road in the last few years, despite comfortably qualifying for the World Cup. Once they faced tougher opposition, cracks began to show. Germany are capable of obliterating anyone and also losing to anyone. Same could be said for Japan, who, as mentioned previously, ran over the USA but also lost to Tunisia at home. Players like Daichi Kamada, Tomiyasu, and Ito are in great form for club as well. Japan are always an electric side and often play games like if they lasted 30 minutes. This intensity will pay off and Kamada will score the first goal of the game. However, Germany will bounce back with a brace from Kai Havertz and another from Thomas Müller. Then it will be time for Spain and Costa Rica to face off. Spain have been rather shaky too, but always seem to be able to get the result they need, although they need too many chances and possession to put the ball in the back of the net. This is not what you want when facing a keeper like Keylor Navas, who is still world class despite not playing for PSG. However, Costa Rica have very little going for them, since they rely on the best players left from that 2014 magical runs and newcomers that have only played in the local league. This is why I'll give the win to Spain with a goal from Ferran Torres. Then it will be time for Japan versus Costa Rica, where I honestly see no hope for Costa Rica bearing a Keylor Navas masterclass. I'm aware I'm underestimating Costa Rica and how well that worked out for everyone in 2014. But Costa Rica will have to show some magic again to get a result in this group. I'm gonna go for an Ito goal and one from Minamino, while Joel Campbell gets one back for Costa Rica. Now for probably the most top-heavy match of the group stage, Spain versus Germany. I think it will be pretty close and it will end in a 2-2 draw. Spain take the lead through Pedri, Germany get an equalizer through Havertz, Morata gives Spain the lead again, and Musiala gets a late goal to the end of the game. Before the last game, Germany and Spain are tied with 4 points, Germany topping due to goal difference, Japan still with hope and 3 points, while Costa Rica are out with 0 points. Going all out in a must-win game against Spain, I expect Japan to once again take an early lead through Ito, but Spain are able to get 2 goals, one from Morata and other from Ferran Torres, but Takuma Asano is able to get the draw. That sadly won't be enough to send Japan through. As for Germany against Costa Rica, I expect Germany to dominate the game but have a tough time breaking down Los Ticos, but finally getting it done through Serge Gnabry. This way, Germany tops the group with 7 points, Spain gets second with 5, Japan gets painfully close with 4 and Costa Rica sadly on 0 points, although I'm sure they'll want to prove me wrong now. Many say Group F is a tricky one to call, but I honestly struggle to see how this group is any different from the rest. Sure, you have 2 exciting contenders like Morocco, who played great in the last World Cup despite not picking up a win, and are filled with talent all over Europe, and also Canada, who make their long-awaited World Cup return with their best squad ever. Very young and electric, but their main strength is being well organized and coached to defend results. But Belgium and Croatia look to be a tier above. Everyone expected these teams to be old and going through a rough transition, but it's been quite the opposite. Croatia's new generation, still led by experienced players like Modric and Brozovic, has found a defensive system that works wonderfully and managed to get them to the next round of the Nations League ahead of France and Denmark, although I still doubt their finishing. Belgium, on the other hand, if all their players are fit, they are a heavily underrated contender. Kevin De Bruyne still looks amazing, Alderweireld still has it in him, and players like Trossard, Castagne and Onana have been making a lot of noise in the Premier League recently. If Lukaku gets to recover from his constant injuries, Belgium still have a shot to make it all the way. After all, as Real Madrid proved, anything is possible having Courtois between the sticks. First match will be Morocco versus Croatia, and although I expect it to be close, I'll be surprised if Croatia don't pick up all 3 points here. A single goal from Kramaric should do it. Then we have Canada's return after 36 years. Sadly, a rough welcome awaits them as they have to play Belgium. Not much trouble here, Belgium will comfortably win 3-0 with goals from De Bruyne, Yannick Carrasco and Batshuayi. Next up is Belgium against Morocco, where I expect Belgium to struggle a bit more, but still manage a win. Youssef En-Nesyri will give Morocco the lead, but thanks to a Lukaku brace, the team led by Bob Martinez will go through. Then it will be Croatia against Canada, and once again I predict the Canadian low block to get broken. Another 1-0 win for Croatia, this time by Luka Modric. With this, Belgium and Croatia have made it to the round of 16 with a game in hand, while Morocco and Canada are out with 0 points. Who wins this group is a bit tricky. It's hard to vote against Croatia seeing how they've been doing recently, but Belgium are just more clinical and usually do great in group stages. KDB will get another goal, Kramaric will equalize and Leandro Trossard will win the group for Belgium. As for Morocco vs Canada, I'll predict Canada to finally get their first World Cup goal through Jonathan David. But Morocco will come back through Hakim Ziyech and Junes Belanda. And so, Belgium top the group with all 9 points, Croatia claims second with 6, Morocco gets their 3 consolation points while Canada on 0 points get their first goal at the World Cup. Moving on to Group G, the first game will be Switzerland vs Cameroon. Switzerland has had a reputation for shocking big teams over the last few years, knocking France out of the Euros, forcing Italy down to the playoffs in World Cup qualifying, and beating Spain on the road in the Nations League. Switzerland seem to be that team that can punch consistently above their weight. Yet they always struggle to make a deep run in every tournament they attend. The World Cup always seems to be a bit too much for them. Same for Cameroon, who were very disappointing for years but have now made it back to the biggest stage. I think this will be a very cagey game that Switzerland will win 1-0 with a goal from Haris Seferovic. Later on is Brazil against Serbia. Brazil enter, as always, as one of the favorites to win the tournament. They have one of the best squads along with France and Portugal, but contrary to these two, their form couldn't be better. They took CONMEBOL qualifying by storm by setting a new record for the highest points earned in a single campaign. They are defensively solid and little on the attack even with their bench players. Serbia also come in hot form after promoting to League A in the Nations League, topping a hard group with Norway, Slovenia and Sweden very convincingly. Not to mention all the talent they have available in midfield and attack. Milinkovic-Savic, Dusan Tadic, Mitrovic, Blahovic are only some of the world-class names that fill up this team. However, their defense is not on par, and even though they are an exciting dark horse team, I can't see them getting a result out of Brazil. Brazil will win 3-1 with goals from Neymar, Richarlison, Lucas Paqueta and Dusan Tadic getting a consolation goal. Then it's Cameroon vs Serbia. Here I expect Serbia to win 3-1, Mitrovic getting the first goal, Cameroon making it level through Choupo-Moting, then another Mitro goal and one from Luka Jovic. I think the Swiss will once again be able to hold on against Brazil. 0-0 this time, just to keep it simple. Although predicting Brazil not to score is as risky as going upstairs with a set of knives. Going into the last match day, Brazil and Switzerland have 4 points, Serbia 3 and Cameroon already out with 0. And it won't get a lot better because now it's Cameroon's turn to learn a bit of samba. 4-0 with Neymar brace and a goal from Vinicius Juniors and another by Rafinha. And for a battle to determine the second seed, I'm gonna predict a 2-2 draw between Serbia and Switzerland. Blahovic to open the score for the Serbs, before Shaqiri makes it level, Remo Freuler will get another for the Swiss, and despite Milinkovic-Savic getting a second for Serbia, Switzerland will be the ones to advance to the round of 16 in second place with 5 points. just behind Brazil, who have 7, and Serbia will once again fail to make the knockouts and go back home with 4 points. And I feel really bad for doing Cameroon dirty like this, but this group just seems like too much for them in my opinion. Finally, we have Group H that will kick off with Uruguay against South Korea. After a streak of bad results that threatened their qualifying campaign, Uruguay sacked Oscar Tavares, who led La Celeste for 15 years. And after appointing Diego Alonso and picking up 4 straight wins, they are back at the World Cup. This will be Suarez and Cavani's last World Cup with players like Darwin Núñez ready to pick up the mantle. However, the real show is in the midfield, with Federico Valverde having a stellar season for Real Madrid and Rodrigo Bentancur in great form for Spurs as well. A special mention to Georgian Di Arrascaeta, who often doesn't get attention for not playing in Europe, but it's a key part of this national team and has just won Copa Libertadores with Flamengo. Meanwhile, South Korea qualified comfortably to the World Cup, and despite a few positive results in friendlies, they've looked rather shaky against teams you'd expect them to beat. Even worse, their star and captain Heung-min Son will be in a race against time to be fit for the first game after an eye fracture. Either way, I expect Uruguay to win this game with 2 goals from Di Arrascaeta and Luis Suarez. The last 2 teams are Portugal and Ghana. As mentioned earlier, Portugal have one of the best squads in the tournament, but they don't seem to pick up the results they should be getting with those players. I don't know if it's tactics or lack of cohesion, but the fact is, Portugal have exited the Euros in the round of 16, bottled their direct ticket to the World Cup while playing at home, and their Nations League group also at home. Predicting how Portugal will do is super hard because they have arguably the highest ceiling and the lowest floor. As for Ghana, they made the World Cup doing just the bare minimum and are looking to make the knockouts again, with a lot of new players that have decided to play for Ghana in the last months. I expect this team to need some time to adjust, which is why I'm gonna predict a 2-0 win for Portugal, with goals from Bruno Fernandes and Rafael Leao. Next is South Korea versus Ghana, which, knowing how much both these teams need this win, it could be a pretty nervy and cagey game. Assuming Heung-min Son is back for this game, I'm gonna say he scores the winner for South Korea. Portugal versus Uruguay is a rematch of the 2018 World Cup round of 16 game that Uruguay won 2-1. But I feel like it could go over to Portugal now. This is a very tough prediction to make because it depends on which version of both teams we see on the day. I think Cristiano Ronaldo will open the score, Fede Valverde will make it level, and Diogo Dalot will win it for Portugal. Going into the last match day, Portugal topped the group with 6 points. Uruguay and South Korea are tied for that second spot with 3, and Ghana have 0 points and need a miracle to get out. A miracle they seek to achieve with some long-awaited revenge as they face Uruguay in one of the most spicy games in the group stage. If there aren't at least 8 yellow cards in this game, I'm not interested. Even then, I expect Uruguay to win 1-0 with a goal from Darwin Núñez. I was tempted to go for a Luis Suarez goal, but the scriptwriter said it was a bit too much. Lastly, South Korea's hopes of reaching the next round will come to an end against Portugal. Andre Silva will score first before Hwang Hee-chan gets an equalizer, but then Joao Felix will give Portugal the lead again and Bruno Fernandes will finish the job. With that, Portugal topped the group with 9 points, Uruguay gets second with 6, South Korea gets 3 points and Ghana get none.